Blessings and welcome to Life in the Band of Light. I am your host, Elijah Ray, and this is a space where we get to remember who we are and why we're here, and the collective symphony that we're creating together. I feel and experience life as a symphony, as an orchestra of components that are all working and flowing and co-creating and remembering through this moment together. And I choose to be a superconductor here and now as I greet my dear sister, who I adore and love so much, Chrissie. I know you as Chrissie Firemain. Some know you as Chrissie Charlie. Some know you as Chakaruna. Mm-hmm. Some know you as teacher, as mother, as wisdom keeper, as beloved sister of the Band of Light. We welcome you so deeply. And how are you? How are you in this moment?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy you're doing this. I'm so happy about
Tell me about that. Why are you happy that I'm doing this? Tell me more about that.
You're supposed to be doing this. It's just really obvious.
Okay.
Because, you ask the right questions. You ask the quality questions and you are dedicated to quality conversations and frequency. And we always want to give you the mic more, Elijah. Anyone who knows you and loves you wants you to speak and sing into the mic more. So this is such a wonderful endeavor, and I was thrilled when you told me you're doing this. Like, that's super right in the universe that Elijah does a podcast. So
it does feel right. It does feel right.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And it feels right that you would be my first guest, my beloved sister, Pumita, someone that I consider in a very core circle of my heart's council. We have been to the moon and back. We have been through journeys through the sacred Andes. We've been through journeys in Hawaii and across this planet. And time again, I've noticed that no matter how much time goes by between us seeing each other or working together or co-creating in some way, or just taking a moment to call each other and say, hey, I'm going through it. Can you hold space for me? Can you back me? You are one of those sacred women and sisters in my life that I feel such a clean, clear pillar that has never asked for more than what is true and has always given nothing more than what is true, which is everything. And you continue to inspire me in your walk. So of course you'd be my first guest in Life in the Band of Light. So tell me, my dear sister, I said a word earlier. I actually, it's like ringing ever since I said it. And I wonder if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Chakaruna. The Chakaruna is like, does it mean like, it's like a bridge. It's like a bridge person, right? So correct. Tell me about, because I know the kiddo and our fellow dear beloved friends and teachers and elders and guides and allies in that land, many of which we share, gave you that name a long time ago. And I'd love to just hear like what that feels like to you. What does that frequency mean to you? And how has that even influenced your journey with the Mana movement and everything you're up to?
Thank you for that question. It's a unique question. I haven't been asked that before. I think initially when I tune into, that name or title of endearment, of acknowledgement, but also of a sense of duty, really, I feel, deeply honored, honestly, knowing that the wisdom of the Andes was destined to stretch out, rapidly around the world. In the last 10, 15 years, we've seen that, and it's exponential, it seems. And so there are, key people. There are people that, are not from those lands, but know those lands and that cosmology and those mountains, potentially from another time. Who knows? I don't know. But, we have a job to help to help that, to literally bridge one world to another, to literally bridge the purity of those teachings that have done nothing but elevate and heal and enrich my life, to others, in a serviceful way, in a generous way. And so when I tune into it, I'm kind of like it feels, I feel honored, but it also feels a bit mindless in that there's almost zero, and has been zero, thinking about it.
Yep.
It just sort of happened very organically and naturally. It made perfect sense to all involved. And there's just that's what it is. It didn't come with bells and whistles and initiations. It was just, and that sort of, it really kind of encapsulates my whole experience with arriving in the Andes. And I just kind of got gently swept into the lap, or, into the wings of what I feel to be, the most potent and powerful lineage carriers over there as family. It just happened. Oh, there you are again. Boom. And so very mindless. And easeful in that, like I have just taken on that role without, again, much thinking, just natural sharing from my heart, natural passion with my community. And I love it. I feel really honored. Like I take it, the most sort of serious, the part I take the most seriously, I'm a very serious person.
Oh, yes.
Also, But the part that like I do kind of like is, becoming a successor to the Chulyo lineage tradition under Mama Ruth, like that part I'm just like, whoa, like the rest.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
The rest I just feel.
We can be playful with most elements, but that's a big deal, Chrissie.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's without making things significant, I feel like the other aspects of Chakaruna, I could easily, there's no attachment. Like I said, it's just like, oh, it is, oh, it isn't, whatever. But that one, Mama Ruth has really placed, a big responsibility in my hands, and she doesn't let me forget it.
Yeah, I see that.
As you can imagine. Yep. And so, that feels like most certainly a solid, conscious, lifelong commitment, which I feel I'm taking seriously and happy to. So passionate about that part.
I'm just curious, what's like the next phase of that commitment look like when you look from this moment into the next steps of the path?
Thank you. It's just a continuation of training my team.
Yep.
So, she has given me pretty much free rein to choose who I want to train in my teams, to serve the ceremonies, whether in Australia, America, wherever we may be. So it's just a gentle continuation of that. And, I'm not with my team physically much, at this point because of where we are geographically. So it's just a gentle, solid continuation. It's, there's no rush, obviously. So that training, continuing to train them. And luckily they are all as wildly passionate about Chulyo Chakra as I am. So there's a lot of fire in the team. Just a gentle deepening of my listening, to Mama, beyond the words, just continuing to pick up from her energy and her connection to the plants and learning more and more about the plants, not just the ones that are available to, on all continents, but even the ones that are, native to the Andes. Yeah. Just gently learning a little bit more. I feel like Elijah, like something I've always sort of longed for, but it's coming up ahead. It is to, really go deep into herbology and plant wisdom and be growing a lot of my own. And
I have felt that for you so deeply. In fact, I just musing in our yard today, there's rosemary growing, and I think of Mama Ruth every time I pick rosemary and work with it. It's like, there's Mama Ruth, just her little way of just,
That's it.
10,000 more uses than you ever would have thought for rosemary. And she's just like this open library of wisdom around herbs. So I'm really grateful you're going to be leaning into that more because we need it. We need it.
Yes.
We were just talking about the, like record keepers and this thinking of the library of the earth and the way wisdom is carried on in across the ages, obviously through spoken traditions, but herbology and the understanding of what plants do what and what they're for and how we can use them in a good way and how to keep our relationships with the plants clean and clear and present and not forget. It's almost like forgetting a conversation. If you and I have been having conversation for years and years and all of a sudden I came to you and I was like, had no memory of that conversation. And it's like we would have to start over. I think of that in our journey as humans with plants. Like we've done the work, we've had these conversations, we've built this relationship, but then unless it's passed on and you teach the children of the next wave, like, hey, here's what we've learned about this conversation. This is how you go to rosemary and greet them. And here's all the things you can do. And here's where you go if you have this malady. And so I appreciate so much that aspect of Mama Ruth's teaching and that lineage that's now held in I'd say very beautifully in you. So that makes me so happy.
Oh, thank you. Well, we plan to publish some books.
Oh, good.
Of Mama Ruth's knowledge, because there is, as you know, so much of it. Like for listeners, this woman can just take any malady in the body and rattle off, to cancers, to fourth stage tumors of your cancer, rattle off 8, 10, 12 different recipes with different plants, just off the tongue. And yeah, I don't know if anyone will have the time to learn everything that she has in there. And I don't fear, but I want to sort of mitigate against that happening by creating some books with her, which she's really excited about. So we'll be doing that. But it's like you said, the way she teaches us to greet the plants, like it's not just the knowledge of what they can do, it's the personal connection to the spirit. And the honoring of its healing properties and the calling in, that's what she teaches us, doesn't she? That every time we're using a plant to call in its spirit and to really call it to come to this ceremony of healing. And now we're working.
Yeah.
Now we're working with the plants. It's exciting. And I just love the command. Mama Ruth is such a commanding figure, and it's just like, those plants won't be messing about. Once she calls them in, it's like, yes, oh yes, you are coming.
Yeah, you feel their little plant spines just get really straight when she calls. It's like, oh, okay, Mama Ruth is here. Better look my best and get some.
Better rock up. Don't be late.
Yeah. No, what's interesting is that I'm noticing as you're sharing about this journey with the plants, and you have this deep, in a way, this bridge, right? That's as we were talking about, this kind of bridge mission that was not only, I don't think it was necessarily even just given to, it's more like recognized in you, is what I feel, from the Kyoto, how they recognized, oh yeah, there you are. Oh, here we are again, and moving on. And so in the spirit of that, I'm just curious, because where my mind goes is most people are living in cities. Most people are getting on trains every day and going to work, or, here and there, and watching Netflix and not really having conversations with the plants, the earth, walking the red road, connected to their indigenous roots, or really in ritual with the earth. And one of the things I love about you, Chrissie, is this kind of blending of modern and indigenous wisdom, this making this wisdom accessible and meeting everyone where they are, because not everyone can go, on a retreat or go live in nature. I think we're blessed to have lived some beautiful places in, Australia, and I'm here in Hawaii, but I'm just curious, like, if you could speak a little bit more to that bridge work and how it's showing up for you now in 2025. Like, things are very different now I think we're both 25 years into our walk, in terms of our committed pathways, give or take. And I just love to hear, what comes alive for you now. I'm thinking of, our dear brother Puma, who at one point spoke about his mesa and how he would include a cell phone in his mesa to just make sure that he's not forgetting to catch up, and that there's always this act of catching up to what's happening now with technology, as well as the old arts and the old wisdom and the old traditions and the indigenous rooted. So when I hear and think and feel into how important it is that we remember something so simple that our grandmothers knew, which is like how to be in right relationship with the plants, how does that bridge into the modern walk and like where humans are at right now, and how can we speak to that blending and that bridge work, and what does that mean to you? I'd just love to talk about that.
Great questions. Yeah, I think that the bridging of sort of ancient and modern and futuristic or indigenous, becoming wisdom. I really do think that it's a role, and it requires being a shapeshifter. We can't really bridge, especially at this time of incredibly rapid change on our planet, probably the most rapid change humans have ever gone through. I'd wager, but
indeed.
Yeah, I just feel it requires an ability to shapeshift and to be truly authentic in many different settings, in many different walks, in many different places on the planet. To be able to feel truly free, living in an apartment block in the city, and then to be truly free camping up a mountain, and or whatever it may be, or to be with very different types of people that aren't interested in wisdom at all. People that are seeking it, it does require a flexibility of spirit. And not everyone has that, and they don't have to either. I'm not saying it's like it's. I feel it's required for this role. Some people are just solidly standing 2 feet in particular camps, and that's beautiful, and that's their role. But this one, I feel specifically requires a continual commitment to cleaning out of judgment, so that as many people as possible can feel safe and drawn to whatever this wisdom is, whether mine, Lewis's, Mama Ruth's, whatever it is that's been is coming through, or I've been entrusted with, to make sure I keep cleaning the filter of any judgment, so that anyone, any being can come through, and so. Yeah, like not judging cell phones, not judging, whatever, high heels and makeup and fingernail painting. Which we can see a lot of judgment, in so-called spiritual communities, and even in particular people that are, deemed wisdom keepers. There's still a lot of judgment going on. Yeah, and so I feel like, I'm just on a continual journey of that, just continuing to open as wide as I can. And, like you said, people are, stuck in cities and, not accustomed to nature and maybe don't even want to be, and potentially want to stay in, a state of unawareness and go further into that, and where I'm at, I'm like, love them. Love them. Who knows how much unawareness or unconsciousness or difficulty or challenge or into heroin addiction, or who knows where that being needs to go before, they hit a change or an awakening, and they could end up being one of the most powerful earth leaders we've ever seen. And so, Yeah, just to constantly take off the judgment from modern, ancient, city, forest, like it doesn't matter. Like it honestly doesn't matter to
All
me.
paths lead home eventually. Right? What I'm hearing from
100%.
you is that it's almost like no matter how tightly a bottle has been capped for eons, with a little shake, it could burst forth and nurse the tribe. Like there's a beauty to what you're saying. And I remember a quote from a man whose name I do not remember, but there's a book I read when I was quite young called Busting Loose from the Money Game. And this is a crazy book. And it was like really out there. And it was kind of just one of those early, everything's kind of a simulation, everything's an illusion, kind of in that era of the journey. And but one line from that book, that was like the jewel I needed. And that line was that judgment is the glue that holds the whole illusion together. And I absolutely adore that, because when you speak about, like, I love that that's where you went with that question, is that ultimately, if we could just take the judgment out of the equation, we could just like press delete and it's like poof, there's no more judgment. Now we're just perceiving and interacting and collaborating with essence, with energy, with each other, with wherever we're at, wherever this instrument is at. If you meet an untuned violin, it's no less of a violin. It's just really out of tune. And whatever journey it needs to get back in tune, it could become, like you said, the maestro violinist of the whole section at some point. So I love that. That's where you went with that. Before we move on into some other areas, I want to learn more from you about what's happening with Mana Movement. But I guess I'm a little bit glowing on the inside, reminiscing in some of our shared moments and journeys in Peru and in the beloved Apus, and with these exquisite teachers and friends you've been invoking here today. So I'm just like reflecting on our co-facilitated and in some cases like magical meetings in the Andes. What moments stand out to you as pivotal moments in shaping our walk, or your walk, let's say?
The one that just came immediately to mind is when we were down by the river thinking we'd had just ingested wachuma, and in fact it was
not
Jeffrey Botticelli's ayahuasca.
That was pivotal. Yep.
It was hilarious.
You might have to tell the story now for everyone at home who is wondering what are you talking about, Chrissie?
Yeah. I'm just seeing ayahuasca turning up as one of the little mestiza mamitas with the tall white hats in the valley, but in a hummingbird, and looking back at us and going, "You better zip up over there." And I just remember that because we were consciously doing, male and female work to bring in more wisdom or light codes for the planet. And even though the setting started off in that very funny way, this is not what we thought we were doing today. Okay, we had planned to work with some medicine that dear Jeffrey, maestro alchemist, had created. He said, you must take part in this black gold, he called it, this incredible distillation of wachuma.
The most incredible distillation of wachuma. Just go pick it up. It's in the kitchen in some magical retreat center on the hill. Like, go get it. They know you're coming. And so we go and get it from the chef who's back there, wild chef eyes, like in the midst of it. Oh yeah, it's right there. And we grabbed this, what we thought was Jeffrey's gift for us. And it was definitely not what we thought, was it?
No, and it didn't take long before we realized that. After ingesting, wasn't too long before I thought, actually, and then I remember looking at you and you said, it wasn't wachuma, was it?
Yeah, we both looked at each other almost at the same time. We just really realized we are in for a much different. There's a little hey hookah going on in there, just a little coyote.
Yeah.
You think you're going here, but then we're going here. And what occurred was profound. I love that what you called it. It was very much masculine and feminine, almost like coming to the altar together to learn and just to kind of lay ourselves before God, to just be like, here we are, teach us.
100%.
We're here to listen and feel. But that rocket boost extra special surprise journey lives on in my heart as well, Chrissie.
Oh, hilarious. But I just, like I guess that moment stands out in so many reasons, but it was also like a homage, I guess, to you, Elijah, and your walk and your role here as, Earth Guardian and cosmic channel. And just that, I guess, that, with these alliances that we have, such as ours, in our walk, when we have these alliances spiritually, like we know that we have codes for each other, and it's not necessarily, hey, these are codes that I've cultivated for you. It's, we have keys that can unlock, other codes from other beings in through for each other, and that's what that was about. It was about an opening of a key for masters that were waiting for you, and it all had nothing to do with me. I was just simply the bridge. Again, there we go, the chakaruna. And so that's that's why that's the first one that stood out to me, the Miskayani and the parallel dimension of Miskayani that, neither of us knew or know much about, but that exists and that was calling my spirit, and yeah, that even dear brother Puma, when I asked him about it, he was like, oh, yes, Miskayani. Yes, I know it, but I don't know it. It's, and he then, with the coca read that, yes, it's a parallel dimension above the sacred valley there.
Yep.
And yeah, you had business.
There was business we had.
Yeah, yes. And so, yeah, that moment for sure. I'm remembering also now, and I think it was, again, Jeffrey's medicine. Jeffrey's featuring in this podcast. When we drank Samwachuma together at the top of Huaynu Picchu, the radar point of Machu Picchu, and then, after a time descended to meet and journey with Kucho for the very first time. And I remember the medicine had really started to open us both. And then we sat in silence with Kucho as he readied himself to take our small group on the journey that day at the Crystal City. And I can remember us both just being with him, watching him, feeling him, watching the way that he was completely devoid of mind. And a little bird just landed, on the stone niche window right next to him. And I saw him communicating with the bird, and then the bird flew off, and then he had the direction of where to take us to begin the journey. And I remember clocking all that and sideways glancing at you, and you sideways glanced at me, and we're both like, oh, yeah.
You're in good hands.
Gonna be good. This is the brother. This is who we need to be hanging with. And yeah, I mean, there's so many moments of just like wonder, extreme wonder from the Sacred Valley, and being there with you, brother, being there with both of our spirits being there and working together in those lands. Like, wow. I mean, wow. You can't even, again, it's beyond words. Great stories, fairy tale stories, even.
So many. We could definitely fill a fairy tale book with a book of stories from those journeys. And for everyone who's listening, it's an honor and a pleasure to just take a moment to honor those moments, because they're vast and there's so many of them, and they span over quite a few years. But I just want to honor you, because in your continued walk, you've gone, you've brought so many souls as a bridge to those lands. to your homeland in Australia, to even now to other sacred sites around the planet, and just for everyone who's listening who does not know this beloved sister, I speak to you as my sister, as someone that, and I shared this with you before we started this recording, which is it's one thing to have a dear beloved like bestie, right? Where you're just like, we could go through anything and I gotcha. Like you could raid my fridge and it'd be all good. Like I have been there with you and your kiddos, and you will hold my baby daughter and you will be her auntie. And there's like family is here and present. I'm sure you can all feel this too. That quality of family is beloved. However, there's also the added dimension of, as you said, codes. And I've always enjoyed this experience of, some of us carry codes, some of us are code activators, and some of us are very much both. And I see you as very much both. I've always seen you. A lot of feminine leaders are code carriers, and you, I feel, are carrying codes, and you also are an activator. That is very clear from the way you show up. But when we have been together in those spaces of facilitation, or just going into the altar and to work with sacred medicine, or sitting with beloved teachers like Kucho and just like really listening and checking out and being an open book of collaboration, but more from a listening space, it's clear that there's something that unlocks in the field when we're when we show up together to show up to the business that needs to be had. I so appreciate that deeply. But I want to journey a little bit deeper into your sovereign walk, because while we've shared some potent moments, your walk is so profound, and it's touched so many areas that I pray we can get to at least some acknowledgement of those areas. One of which, of course, has kind of become the core heartbeat of your work, as far as I can feel and tell, is the Mana movement. And I'd love to hear if you could just describe what is the Mana movement, what is its core mission, what transformational experiences are offered to people who come into the Mana movement, and just tell us a little bit about that for those who don't know.
Yeah, I feel so moved already, like thinking about it. It's just a heart song, really. It's just my heart song. So it's so deeply part of me, and vice versa. It's so not separate. It really is me beyond me in a way. And I feel like it's just my efforts to create a family and a community and connection between humans that is the truest and the realest, the deepest and the most authentic it possibly could be. And so, the mission is to clear out or assist the dissolution of illusion and noise around one human heart. Really, the focus is on each human heart. Like one, I just know, and my team, we know how powerful one heart is. And so we do not take lightly the activation process of one heart, the de-armoring, the gentle de-armoring of one more layer from one more heart. So, that is the mission, actually, is to de-armor, but therefore to activate, like really come online, really like on a cosmic level, activate one more heart, a little bit more, one more heart, a little bit more. Because I do feel that that's what is going to change the game faster than any other strategy.
Yes.
And I do really say it all the time, but it's we don't have to activate all the hearts. It's not about all the people in the cities who couldn't, who are not interested at all in any. No, we don't need to. It's just a few key hearts. It's just a few key hearts. So I guess my song is it is for everyone. Everyone's welcome, but I feel I'm probably more singing to the people who have come here to really change the game, and to ring in the golden age. I'm most excited, I'd say, to work with them, and to help just keep activating their hearts. And so we do that through, a set of codes that my late teacher Liz Gilbert Grant and her teacher Colin Brown kind of created structure around. Let's say the codes are cosmic, they're ancient and modern, and they belong to no one. But then they created structure, a pathway, let's say, that is very efficient to do that, to get a being back in the driver's seat of their ability to actually create. Do you know, and look, we know, people can have all the love and all the talent and all the vision, but a lot of humans are really stuck about how to even get that happening, the creation part. Do you know, as sort of mundane as even paying the bills part. There's a lot of stuckness there, and that's the creation aspect. And so we start there, get people back in the seat, and then efficiently walk through a path of clearing the heart, clearing the mind, of the subtle matrices of control that have been set up for millennia on our planet that are very subtle. Most people don't think they're affected by them still.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, that's the structure, let's say, of the offering. And then, we do that in gatherings. We have gatherings, whether online or in person, and that's where these codes are handed over or taught, let's say. But I mean, mana, people are so incredibly dear to me. I love humanity. Human beings make me cry all the time. I just have to even think about one human being and how incredibly beautiful and powerful they are. And I'm just on the floor. I'm just on the floor. I don't know why, but I have been born with the deepest passion and knowing of humanity and our beauty. And so, that just drives me all the time. And so, we're not like here's an offering and see you later kind of folk. Every person that comes into us, we fall deeply in love with, and vice versa, and we are holding forevermore in our wings, and it's it's up to the person whether they want to keep like a hummingbird drinking that in and walking with us further as a community and as a family. Some don't, they don't want to, need to, great. But I feel, Elijah, and this, I'm holding thousands and thousands and thousands of hearts and closely.
Yep.
And I will freaking keep doing that, and I have the capacity to do that, and I keep strengthening up, so I have the capacity to keep doing that on a greater and greater level. But I just feel like I'm a guardian of humanity. I'm a bridge person, even from the last paradigm of consciousness into the new one, into this golden age that I can smell, sense, see, and hear so clearly. And there's no real knowing in my mind about how to get there, but my heart just feels it's all about being with another heart more deeply than that heart has ever experienced before. The depth and the quietude of space. I feel like, these are topics that we explore deeply at Mana, love and space, and what are they? What really are they? What, and what they afford each other, and what they invoke, and the relationship between love and space, true space. And there's not a lot of it on our planet. And so, we're committed to creating more true space where we exit the building, so to speak. We create a vacuum or space for a human heart to really unfurl. Yeah, so that's what mana is, and it's fun. We don't take ourselves seriously at all. It's, we're a bunch of people who love love, and we're seekers, but we don't do any of this sort of, new age stuff, and we're very humble, and we like to celebrate. Everything has to be fun or go home. Not interested if it's not
If
fun.
it's not fun, or not doing it.
No, that's exactly right.
I love
You know?
this. I want to honor something you just shared about space and the true spaciousness to let a heart really unfurl and know its own note. In the Band of Light, we talk a lot about the tone home, and each of us have this our note, and it's like, who can even hear their note in the barrage of inputs and just, additives that are happening to our consciousness, our mind, our day. So I really appreciate that. I've never heard you speak to it in that way, in love and space, and how any seed is required to have space around it, good soil, good water, good attention, but space around it without other things trying to say, well, I need, it's me, about me and my healing. It's like, no, each heart needs that moment to feel, to know itself. And I thank you for offering that to heart after heart after heart after heart. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. I witness you now doing it. Even those who are listening now are likely just feeling a bit held and a bit more tenderly in touch with something inside of their own hearts as a result of just listening to you and listening to this conversation. And so I just loved it, use that and go a little deeper into you as a mother, because I know motherhood has been such a profound part of your journey as a mother, raising two children while building mana movement, while doing retreats in Peru, while being in ceremony. And sometimes, I've been there and gotten to know both of your children deeply at moments, and I adore them. My goodness, what powerful, profound, ancient, sweet spirits they are. I just love to hear, how has motherhood deepened your understanding of these things, of leadership, community building, some of the aspects that you are currently teaching and exploring in the Mana movement. How has motherhood influenced that?
Wow. Yeah. It's interesting. The first thing that comes to mind, Elijah, is like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like I feel like I was a mum, at 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, so having my own physical children, it certainly didn't sort of mark a big change spiritually for me, if that makes any sense. Of course, it did in so many ways, but I remember being 12 and babysitting all the kids in the street and just being like, so ready to have kids. 12, like wanting them, and just wildly passionate about holding babies and their purity. And so you're having my own children, personally, to me, felt more like reconnecting with spiritual allies. And that is, I feel, first and foremost, my connection with my children. Is I've always approached it from that plane first. And then, of course, doing the nurturing and the physical and the mother to child role. But honestly, like, stronger for me is the role that my kids are allies to me, and vice versa. And I have learnt so much from both of them and continue to, and I'm humbled by them through, mistakes. Well, not mistakes I make, but mistakes certainly, but also just, they're the ones that, are right there to show up, in your face, your baggage, moment to moment, and you feel it. And if you're attuned to feeling it and wanting to, learn through it, wow, the kids, they're always there. And so, I have learnt so much from them about my own limitations, and have humbled into, just always, as much as possible, owning that and apologizing to them as swiftly as I can. You know, when they've been able to lovingly reflect back to me, you know, where I need to grow. Yeah, I'm just so proud of them. I guess, you know, I also like my knowing, I guess, of or just this inherent feeling of how best to nurture a being into their greatness and into their power translates back and forward from how I raise Zion and Inni and love them to how I raise or love anyone. You know, it really is like the edges are blurred, Elijah, for me around motherhood. It's like I feel like a mother to everyone, you know, or I want to be, or I want to give that love in a motherly way to everyone. So, you know, I've treated my kids powerfully, like super powerfully from the get go. And so, you know, they are both now at 14 and 15, like freaking solid allies to me, but also to my walk in the world, to mana. Like they both are unflinching spiritually about what I do and who I am. Like they get it. Like Innie has never, ever even wavered. She's just like, you know, even every birthday card she writes to me, she's like, even this year, Mum, it's going to be an amazing year. What you've been building with Mana, I'm so proud of you. Like, this is a 13-year-old, you know, and she's like constantly like that. And then Zion, who, you know, through his growth and rebellion phase, which is over, thank goodness. And you walked me through that. He was like, F you, Mum, and your effing hippie shit, you know, like he did all that.
Yeah.
Didn't take him long. And now he's just like, when am I working for you, Mum? You know, like boom. And wow, like that back and forward, like that spiritual acknowledgement from teenagers and where I give it to them back, it's like, as I said, chicken or the egg, or the egg, I don't know. But mothering my children has been about empowering them spiritually and knowing that they can do whatever they bloody like, you know, really, as long as, you know, I've got to try and keep them safe. But, you know, where they choose to go, they will be picking up the soul lessons because that's how I've conditioned them, you know, in the way that I've lived and they've lived in and around mana and yourself, kucho, like, you know, drinking the medicines. And, you know, they've been witness to so much depth in adults being vulnerable, you know, in the sweat lodge that, you know, like I just trust them if they need to, you know, whatever, go into corporate or whatever they might choose. I trust them fully. Do you know that they're going to be bringing the light wherever they choose to go? And yeah, it's you know, it's just my unique way of raising children. Everyone does it their own way, you know, like I'm kind of a woman out in the world. But when I'm home, I'm a woman in the kitchen. You know, I kind of do both, and you know, I see, you know, motherhood having so many different faces. You know, the beautiful traditional, you know, nobility of being at home all the time with the children. I just think is so profoundly beautiful and valuable. But then there's some of us that are, you know, code activators or bridge people that, you know, our role is out of the home at times too. And yeah, I've just from the beginning raised my kids with that's normal. That's your mama. And I'm going to hold you wherever I am in the world. And yes or yes, we are going to connect primarily spiritually. And yeah, that's just served us really well. Like my kids are strong. They're strong. You know that. They're like, wow, blown away with them.
Beings, and as they say, the proof is in the pudding. So what you are speaking is so felt in their walk, in their presence. And when I'm in their presence, I just feel honor to be an uncle and just to bear witness to these young masters who have probably seen more real humanity than most adults have, just because of
100%.
your walk. So big deep bows to you, sister, for the way that you've raised them and continue to set an example. Because I've noticed that there's been moments where, I don't know if you've ever expressed this to me, but I think I've witnessed other parents going through something similar, which is, I'm really going through it, or there's moments where in your spiritual path, there's just very deep shadow moments and shadow work happening that you might say, want to kind of keep safe or keep that part from your children seeing, to remain in some role in their heads as like always strong and always clear and always dependable. But you've kind of done, in a way, the opposite of that muggle. Oh, we don't ever show them, these parts of ourselves or of life. So, and we kind of present this parental, mask in a way to the kids.
Yes.
It's like you've really brought so much authentic wisdom in, which to me feels, I can tap in and feel the red road there. I can feel, that's what my grandfather would have called it, but I can feel the indigenous wisdom there, where this life is happening. So welcome, grab a stick and grab a stone. Here we go. Like, we're going into the lodge tonight. And it's like, oh, wow. So they get used to seeing people puking their guts out and screaming and having these huge, movements of energy. And to them, they're just like, oh yeah, this is another Friday,
Yes.
So I really appreciate how in a way, I pray that isn't lost upon humanity, how much, and I feel like this is something I've reflected to at times throughout our journey as friends. I've reflected to how much you inspire me to not hide my shadow from family, especially from the people that need to see it, that need to hold me in those moments. And I have just vulnerably noticed that I don't know if it's because of my upbringing or just because of some sense of, if I'm not holding it all together, things could fall apart for those nearest and dearest to me. But it's actually the opposite is true. It's when we allow ourselves to fall apart, be witnessed by, our truest family, that there's a closeness and a realness that I so witness in everything that you weave and everything that you move through. And it might be messy sometimes, a bit messy for some people's little prissy touch of wanting to have things all nice and tidy in their spiritual path. No, it's like journey with Chrissie, and you are going to get muddy and dirty, and you're going to come out laughing your ass off because it feels really good to get real. And I so appreciate that about you. So thank God.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. Like, if I didn't show that to my children, then Zion would have had huge judgment on his own shadow walk that he just went through. My son, who's now 15, nearly 16, and myself both went through the darkest moment of our lives together. It was about 1.5 to 2 year chapter. And because he had, been raised like that, and, shadow and vomit and difficulty and grief and rage are normalized as part of the human experience and part of what we, also the emotional scale. You can't feel bliss unless you're going to feel the shit, like it's the same thing. He would have then found it very much more difficult to pass through his soul initiations that he went through. If there was this whole wrongness on it, the whole time Zion was going through that, which was terrifying for me as a parent, honestly. Spiritually, I had not a shadow of a doubt that he would come through. Either did you, Elijah, and my true allies were like, he's got this. Puma was like, he's got this. He's getting it out of his system early. He's going to come out flying. I knew that.
Yeah.
But there were people in my then circle who tried to smash myself and Zion
Mm.
for going through that again, like making it like what you said. Oh, this shadow means that you're not evolved. Oh, this you need to be like full judgment coming in. And I share this because, I just want people to recognize that, that does occur. Like when we are going through a very natural mud of the lotus moments in life, which are required. They are required.
They're essential.
Essential. You'll see who is really about love and true spirit from their reactions, whether they are backing you through it or judging you about it. And so that's something that we hold very, very closely and dearly at Mana, is that there can be, no energetic judgment of people as they're going through their shadow walk. Because we trust that that's where the gems are for them. Why would we just, that's how they're going to be initiated.
Mm.
So we love and guide, but not with any you should or you shouldn't have, or and that's how I went through that with Zai. I was just like, yeah, he is going to depths I can't see, and I trust him. And oh God, this is hard, but he's got it. He's got this. And I know that backing of him metaphysically and that judgment-free, let's say, approach to shadow enabled him to pop straight out, pop out swiftly and be stronger than he's ever been. Like it's so important that we keep normalizing, the depths and the shadow walk. And I read a book when I was 19 or 20, when I was just trying to absorb as much wisdom from so many different walks. And it was a book on Tantra, and it was describing and naming the goddesses and the gods of each chakra going up and down. And I must admit, I cannot remember. They were like Rakini, Dakini, they were, I think it was Dakini, I can't remember. But, the goddess of the base chakra, I just have the image because it was drawn in the book. But, she is pre-verbal. She is pre-verbal. She is, an ancient Neanderthal being who is shaking her fists, screaming at the night sky, at the thunder and the lightning, just and like that energetic, that invitation or ability for any of us to go down to that place, at the bottom of the scale, and express freely without judgment, only enables us to go to the heights of the beauties of the goddesses in the crown chakra. You can't have the heights without the depths. Full stop.
Stabilize the heights without rooting into those depths. It's like in a sphere, you can't just keep building up and up and up without having the bottom part of the sphere spherically sound, so that it's actually a coherent space that you can stabilize into. So yes. Otherwise we're just taking trips, right, up and down the ladder and falling down the ladder of light. But I love what you shared there, Chrissie, especially about, I just want to acknowledge this piece you just shared about, Zion, your son's journey, and even just in general, normalizing shadow work, normalizing going into this place, what you called, I love, what came up for me was like, it's the deep primal element of the great shaking that's happening down there. And oftentimes when we go into that place through shadow work, or just through breath work, or through tantra, or just through getting into the nitty gritty and going through a cathartic experience, which, I've been through a few in your presence and some of the containers that we've held. There is something to be said for like the shaking that happens when you enter that space. There's like a lot of shaking because there's like stuck energy that needs to move and needs to express. But what I wanted to honor was by normalizing that is something that needs to happen, needs to move through in order to kind of expand our range and reclaim the wholeness of our sphere. It reminds me of getting a fever. Reminds me of getting what we would call sick or ill. It's like, oh, you're sick, so you need some cough medicine to suppress this cough, or to some fever medication to suppress this fever, because we don't want to go there because you don't want to be sick. And oh, you're sick, so we better give you this, whatever shot in the arm or whatever it takes to like suppress the symptom, when actually that is you might say a microcosm of another fractal way that you could call it shadow work. You could just call it also like just moving through life and making sure it moves all the way through, as any young child would do, as any baby would do, cry their face off for 5 minutes and then they're laughing and rolling around again. So there's something to be said about, in your work, in the work of Mana, how making that normal, fun, playful, but also make sure it has enough space. Really move all the way through, because I mean, we could go off into this realm for quite a while, but we have both seen in the spiritual community the effects of suppressing the fever when it comes, so that it just goes down and festers and becomes something else. And in terms of shadow work, in terms of getting down into root causes, childhood, all the maladaptations that happen when we're young, without getting into that, letting it express, letting it move through fully. Sometimes we can touch into that, but then, like you said, there are those reflections around us in our life going, oh yeah, that's a bit dark, or oh, there's something wrong with this expression, and that means there's something bad happening if you're going into this much shadow right now. And I've witnessed that judgment that you've spoken to before, and I want to honor and acknowledge that by creating a safe space in this world for that to be touched, moved through, expressed, and celebrated. Like has to be a whole symphony. And once you're on the other side and it's celebrated, it no longer has any power, no longer has anywhere it's living inside of you. It literally needs to move through. So I'd love to just hear you speak to kind of that as a leaping off point into any other just top of your heart technologies of the heart of the work that you'd be willing to share with us, in regards to what's alive for you in Mana, as if you could just take a read of humanity and all the people coming through Mana and all the people coming through your retreats and just everyone you're tracking. What would you say is like the top few practices or technologies or tools that are needed most at this time to keep us in balance, grounded, and in touch with these ancient ways?
I think it's a willingness to let go of the sides, so to speak. So allowing our hearts to be fully expressed, it does require a letting go. And we have been conditioned for so long, as you were saying, to suppress and to look good and to come over the top and to hold others and be the martyr and so many different things, or we judge emotion, or that's weak, and vulnerability, blah, 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 blah. And so what I see is the majority of people are expressing themselves emotionally to a certain depth, but very little actually of the depth of vulnerability that is truly there.
Safe, right?
Sorry?
It's like playing it safe. It's like they'll go deep to a point where they can still remain in control.
And it's so interesting you use the word playing it safe, because it takes safety, a feeling of safety, of true metaphysical safety. It's a feeling. It's a feeling. And what I see is there's not a lot of held spaces on the planet where that's happening, where people honestly feel entirely safe. And that is luckily one of the greatest pieces of feedback we get at Mana. This is the safest container I've ever felt. This is the safest. I've been searching for decades for safety. Here it is. And when people can come into a frequency where they feel very safe, non-judged, our heart does naturally open. It happens very swiftly when we feel safety. But then in that, when you asked about technology, it's like letting go of the sides, literally let go and free fall into the emotion where we feel it, it's rising, we're expressing, but then like literally free fall into it. Go as deep as you can. Like go as deep as you can. Keep going. And that requires a sense of free fall. That's what I say to people when I'm working with them, like let go and keep going. And they're sobbing their eyes out. I'm like, keep going. And they realize there's more and more and more depths where people will have a good cry and then bounce up and out. Mm-hmm. Wipe the tears, bounce up and out. Where it's like, oh no, if you can let yourself go right to the bottom, there's a natural buoying up spiritually that happens. And that's one of the technologies or teachings that Liz shared. It's like, if only we would let ourselves sink to the bottom of the pool. Most people are treading water emotionally. Most people are just out there bloody trying not to drown. Or maybe there's a piece of us that's trying not to drown. We're sort of, treading water. And that's the most inefficient strategy ever. Most inefficient for all the reasons. It's the most efficient to let yourself sink down, right down to the bottom of the pool where you do not know the depths, where you've lost yourself, you don't know who you are anymore, and you keep going, and then you hit the bottom of the pool with both feet, and then boosh, up you come, and awareness change is on the other side. Like there's major gems of awareness change for us at the bottom of the pool of feeling. And, I do feel like we are all suppressing major grief. We are all suppressing rage. And, that can confront people out there who think they're very, very zen. They go, oh, no, what's she talking about? I don't have rage. If you don't have rage, you're not human. How can you not feel rageful at what's been happening in Palestine? How can you not feel like we've got to allow that we're suppressing and we're suppressing a lot. And there's no judgment on that. Like it's become a way of coping because we are being bombarded. Absolutely bombarded as a species with tragedy.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism, right?
Exactly.
Like human nervous system can only handle so much trauma
That's right.
for so long before it has to either shut down, numb as a coping mechanism just to continue walking and not die. I mean, like we would all be in pools of tears and rage, like you said, if we really let ourselves even grieve what we were forced. And I say that very lightly because I don't feel like I was forced quite to do anything, but the world was certainly forced to change their behaviors and stay away from their loved ones. And what happened through the COVID spell was so profoundly off, so out of touch with humanity, with love, with God, with earth, with life itself. It was an anti-life moment. That really, I think the effects of that and the normalization and how everyone kind of went through the motions was such a there's so much grief that has not even begun to be cleared from that event. And there's been probably 17 more events on top of that are just doubled the amount of that. So I'm really with you. And what do we do as leaders? And I'd like to speak to the leaders right now, because I know that we're far beyond the era of needing to posture, position, pump ourselves or each other up to be anything other than what we are. And you said it well at the beginning of this conversation. You know who you are, my sister. That's why I love you. Who you are and who you know yourself to be is why we get along so well, and why we love each other so much, is because, oh yeah, there you are. Yeah, we are bridges. There is a lot of power in your words, in your walk, in your thought, in your deed, and you're not afraid to make mistakes, which is what makes you a good leader.
Thank you.
You really, I really want to honor that deeply, and in a way, kind of just speaking to the leaders in the code of what we've just shared and kind of opened up. Okay, if we're actually, let's get real. On the playground right
Mm-mm.
now, on planet Earth right now, we are dealing with a very traumatized species. Our brothers and sisters are likely, as you said, carrying rage, resentment, guilt, grief, depression, fear, anxiety at astronomical levels of any other time in history. But yet
Mm.
we're still walking around and making posts on Instagram like everything's cool.
Mm.
The kind of like psychological split of that is a very
Mm.
interesting place to insert programming, to insert all kinds of, let's just say, archetypes that are playing themselves out, and we can kind of witness those archetypes running rampant through.
Yep.
It's like Watiko's just having a playground because everyone's kind of out of their bodies. No one's really fully in, claiming every cell of their bodies, nervous systems like an eagle, condor, like in their nervous system, like I'm here. It's like, no, they're kind of out of their bodies, a little bit shut
Yes.
down, so that
Mm.
a lot of energies can come and play through humanity when they're not in their own throne, in their own power. It's like my own father used to say, be your own authority or someone else will. So it's like sit in your throne or someone else will. And
Mm.
so in the spirit of that, in the leadership codes that I just feel so alive in you and I in this conversation, what are the keys? What are the pillars of truth that we need to remember right now and live by, especially for those who are in or are stepping into or are right now feeling the call to step into leadership in these times? What would you say to those who are kind of up and coming, because you've been out here for a while speaking your
Mm.
truth and living this way and teaching and learning. But what would you say to those leaders who are arising right now?
Mm. Ooh, love this question. Well, I want to say that I think a leader, it's, like we know it's a hat, right? It doesn't put us on a pedestal. It's just like you're a baker, you're a leader, you've got that skill set, you've got that skill set. So just to first bring it down to level playing field where it's no, it's there's no, it should be no positive judgment
Mm,
around leadership and knowing that you're here to lead.
mm,
And I want to speak to the part where it's very important to listen, like Puma says, to yourself first and last, to always keep tuning in with what you feel, regardless of what anyone may be telling you. But having said that, I feel it is so important to continue to be a very humble student of another powerful lineage carrier or leader who is walking the walk and getting very safe and lasting results with humans,
mm,
translatable, digestible results that actually we're seeing when someone is working with you or whoever you're training with, that the results in people's lives are lasting. It's not some temporary change. It's a lasting, grounded evolution that naturally ripples out, and it's very felt by their community.
mm.
I think as
Well,
leaders, but honestly, do you know, because like there's a lot of leaders, but there's a lot of people following people that have been in the game for 5 years, or, like these life coaches who have literally just come out of uni. And it's like, what? Like, come on now, let's mature and get behind an elder who is reputed. You've checked them out, you have a very strong relationship with them, and you sit under them. It can be someone, carrying eldership codes. It doesn't necessarily have to be old in biological years, but that the lineage or whatever the training that you are continuing with, because you can't stop training.
mm,
Like no leader should think that have done all the training and I don't need like that. That I just, that to me is a major red flag
yeah.
when leaders don't have a teacher. Yeah,
I
because
never met
they get all the codes direct from the universe. It's like, no, that is insane. Who is holding you
never
very
met a
accountable?
teacher or a true leader or master, I would say, that isn't an absolute childlike student of every moment that they're sitting in. That's how you know. That's how you know you're in the presence.
That's right.
But yeah, please continue. This is
Yes.
a very potent share. Please continue.
Yes. Yes. I just think it's all about the results. Do you know? Like, because people can, go out there and want to help people, but if the results aren't coming back and stabilized and really being walked in the clients or the participants or whoever it is you're working with, your students' lives and their communities, then there's more training to do. Do you know? And even when that's happening, we keep training. But I think it's about the results, because we know, Elijah, there's so much being flung around out there that's being called, helpful or developmental. And what I see, and I'm seeing this really clearly over the last few months, I see that what is occurring by and large is that, and again, look, this is judgment free. Everyone's just doing their best. I'm not saying anything is right or wrong, but I feel like a lot of sort of leaders are potentially not being truly attuned to what is the natural next step of the human being, and making sure that natural next step is taken, and that the natural next step is taken in the right order. I think we're sort of throwing people into experiences that aren't their next step, and we're blowing people out. And then they are having to work harder at find their track again. And I think it's all about being very, very careful with people and recognizing, okay, no, this person's next step is not what I have to offer. How can I help them find, what is their natural next step? And taking that time to care about beings enough that it's not about, are they going to walk with me? It's like, no, what's best for them? So that we are walking solid paths of evolution, not this feigned evolution of, I'm going to jump to going straight into working out my mother trauma when I haven't even worked out how, how to drop blame yet. There's steps that we have to go gently in the right order. And so I would just say that to leaders out there, that the fastest way anywhere, the fastest way to lead humanity out of this is slowly. Is slowly, is each human stabilizing really slowly and truly, and not trying to whip people up into some kind of let's go over there frenzy. It's like, no, that's no care. There's no care for the beings there. So I think that that's what leadership is about right now. Is tuning into the true needs of an individual and saying, is it my medicine? And what part of my medicine? What is their next? No, it's not. It's over there they need to go. Right, go over there. And then we work together, because we're all holding this being. It doesn't matter if they're in my community, your community, whatever. It's that. It's the slowing down, actually, I feel is going to take us where we want to go faster.
Oh, so beautifully said.
Thank you.
Oh, I just feel my heart just expanding and growing even more tender to hear you naming it so precisely and so compassionately. It's really one thing to say, oh, there's no judgment here, but let me judge you, everybody out there, what's going on. But you really are naming something with such compassion that needs to be named right now. And it almost brings tears to my eyes, because I feel it's almost like the energy of, it's not anyone's fault. There is a learned sense of, like, it takes someone who's been a bit traumatized, blown out, shown, you might say, false light forms of leadership, and then they then take that on and get a platform and start sharing that. And I know I've noticed the short-term lineage over this last few generations. I call it a short-term lineage because it's not a true lineage. Yeah. It's not rooted in, 10,000 years of song and tradition. It's this kind of like, oh, I'm getting the codes right now, and I'm getting that you need to do a tantra retreat with me. And it's like, wait a minute, never learned Tantra. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like so many teachers we met along the path who were like, you can kind of see through. There's like this, it's easy to wear this garment of teacher, guru, leader, guide. But there's much wisdom in what you shared, Chrissy, which is if you are to look at anyone's, again, it's like the proof is in the pudding. Look at the results over time. Look at the results. The same thing goes for diet. The same thing goes for people who say like, oh, you must have this diet and it's the only way to be healthy. And it's like there's a lot of different ways to do life.
Yes.
Some of them are kind of hot topics, and then you watch after 3, 4, 5 years, it kind of dies out because it's not really a sustainable way to do life. It got really popular for a minute, but it's kind of like a trend or a TikTok meme more than it is a true path that has eldership, lineage, teachings, bodies of work that are proving over time this is a healthy way to live life and be in right relationship with each other, with the planet. So what you're naming just feels like a really good gauge or point of reference for any of us to come from and look at, hey, if I'm really going to get into this template, this way of being, this path, this teaching, this teacher, this, can I actually look at a positive effect accumulated over time? And can I track that and watch the ripple effect and truly say, yeah, that ripple effect is the kind of thing I want to be a part of. That's what I'm inspired to be. I wish I would have done a bit more due diligence in my early days with some of the journeys I hopped into, because it's like I just believe people at their words sometimes, like, oh, they say they can do this, and then you get there and you realize, oh wow, hey, I'm going to spend a few days just cleaning that off and then get back to it. But like you said, when individuals get blown out or opened up too quickly or move through a process that's not really their next step, I love the way you put it, to really notice what is the truest next step for them and to understand, because I also hear and feel that entire part of our conversation that we could have perhaps in a whole nother podcast about relationship, about, is this really mine to do to journey with this person in this way? Or is it ego that's just telling me to dive in with them? And then we go through this whole journey that's karmic and it's not really true. It's like, it wasn't really the medicine of either of our next step. And it could have been better off to just discern that up front and realize, there might be someone better suited for you than me. I'm going to, and so I really honor the maturity it takes to discern that with every moment of life that we step into, to really understand it. And I think it takes a knowing of ourselves to such a degree that, like, it takes an occupying of our own heart, our own body, our own skin, to be comfortable with who we are, to be able to show up and know my medicine is needed here. I am to get on this mic because there's something for me to contribute to the space. Or like Gandalf in the back, just smiling and nodding because there's nothing for me to do here. These hobbits are just fine without me.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. And I'd love to maybe just add one more layer for me. If you could just plant a seed now for all the awakened and listening hearts and minds in the band of light around the world, everyone who's listening in this moment right now, and this seed could grow into, what would building communities, art, technologies, ways of life look like in 20, 50, 100 years from now? What is the seed that you are devoted to living right now that could take root and grow in the future generations?
Me?
You.
Like the seed I'm living? Okay. Yeah. I think, well, what I am feeling that I'm cultivating more and more, and it's being felt, like it's definitely happening because I'm getting the feedback and I'm feeling the results, is a continual de-armoring of my heart, of the subtle subtle layers, like just continuing to keep moving them. And what it is awakening me into, I guess, is so much more awe. So it's awe and joy and innocence. Like they are the results, I feel, of like continually opening the heart for those that have open hearts. Like you said, we're talking to the band of light. We're talking to the leaders as well. You know, that's who I'm passionate to work with. Our hearts may already be open, yes, but it doesn't mean there's not more and more and more very subtle layers to keep opening and taking off, because it is in the subtleties. It's not about, oh, I've done all the healed all my trauma. Yeah, okay. It's not that. It's a continuation of the very subtle opening. And I just know that the subtle is the more powerful. Like that. So that's what I am walking right now, you know, with my own path. And, you know, in mana, even in the classrooms, you know, in Munai especially, that's where we are opening to this more and more, and just always being open to the possibility that there's definitely more. There's more subtle. Keep going. And yeah, the fruits that are coming from it are changing my life hugely. Like in the last 9 months, no, 6 to 7 months, I can just feel so much more love and presence, calm, like all the really cool stuff. Like really cool stuff, like way more and more in each day. And I know that that's what I want us to walk into the future, is the beingness of love, not the doingness of love. Is actually the beingness of it, where we don't have to move, but we are affecting the field far, far more. And it is in those subtle layers. So that's what I'm inviting leaders to keep going with, and to smell, sense, find powerfully, like a hummingbird, the most open hearts in your field, and go and be with them and learn from them, sit with them and stay with them. And via osmosis, like we open more. But it's not the doingness anymore. It's not about looking at who's doing what. It's feeling. Like I used to always say, like, if you were deaf and blind, you know, who would you gravitate to? You know, and it's in that for me right now. It's like I want us leaders to keep working so that more and more people would gravitate to us if they were deaf and blind. They would be feeling our heart field more and more. That's the leadership. So that's what I'm walking and seeding, and really enjoying it, I have to admit.
Well, that's a sure sign that it will bloom on, my sisters. If you're enjoying it, then that makes it extra juicy. I feel like enjoyment is a very underrated and underestimated kind of essential component of planting seeds that will grow. Right?
That's it. It's been purposefully belittled. So that we think of it as oh God, the world's falling apart. Can't be enjoying yourself.
How dare you?
Can't be having fun. How dare you? I get that all the time. How dare you go sailing? You know, it's like, oh wow, no, you're looking at the doing. You're forgetting the being, and how that's where it's at. Well, anyway, that's where I feel it's at. So it's that joy is totally akin to freedom and truth. Joy. Joy.
Beautifully said. Wow. I so enjoy our sharing.
Yeah,
I so enjoy our collaborations, and even just a simple conversation becomes a prayer and becomes a space to plant seeds and water vision and check into our personal embodiment and check into our relational and emotional intelligence, and to just polish up, any parts that might be a little numb, or just to check out how sparky everything is today. It's like, I just so appreciate your mirror, Chrissie. I appreciate your mirror. And I appreciate that you are the very first beloved guest of my new podcast, Life in the Band of Light. And just in the spirit of that, I would love to know, what does it mean to you personally to live life in the Band of Light? What does that mean to you?
Well, living life in the band of light means living close to you. And I cannot begin to express what your love and your friendship and camaraderie and belief and support means to me. You are the safest man in my life. You are the safest brother in my life. And I am who I am, or I do what I do, or who knows whatever, because of walking with you through life. And yeah, it means the world to me, Eliza. It means the world to me. It really does. And I feel so honored that I'm the first guest of your podcast. Like, to anyone who knows this man, wow, you know what an honor that is. Like, it is the highest honor. I mean, it's not about the bloody podcast. It's about, you know what I mean? But it could be, that's the 3D thing. But like, to be here and honored to speak with you is, like, I can big myself up with that. I can go, well, if this dude thinks I'm pretty cool, then I must be doing things right. If this guy's as close as he is to me, I must be rocking.
Yeah.
So I can big myself up,
Chrissie. And what's funny is we remembered something together when we started, which is you asked me to be the first guest on your podcast. Yeah. And I thought, I must be somebody pretty special for Chrissie Fireman to ask me to be on her podcast, because she's not messing around, I tell you what. I love you so much. It touches my heart so deeply to hear that and to feel that. And my goodness, I pray that people who are listening to this, who don't know of this woman's work, and this is your introduction to her, which would be amazing, that you really get to experience more of her and join her in her incredible, pretty, I would say, at the top of my list of what I would send anyone I love, including my own wife, who I can't wait, and she can't wait to meet you and work with you, my beloved Cassidy, is like, she's like, I just, out of anyone in the world, I think I would love to do a retreat with, it would be Chrissie Fireman. I was like, exactly. This is why I married you. This is a smart and I appreciate that you hold that level of respect amongst the tribe, amongst, at least in terms of humanity that I'm aware of and in connection with and in cahoots with and hear whisperings from. There's a level of care and respect and appreciation, and I think a bit of awe. I think you inspire awe. You inspire awe in me. I can speak for those who perhaps don't have a voice, that I'm in awe of you and the way you walk and the way that you never back down from the truth, no matter what it is, no matter what it's going to bring up for people. And that to me is true leadership, and we need it. And I appreciate it. And it helps me become a better man. You've made me a better man just walking with you.
Thank you.
I do want to ask, just to share with us what is lighting you up about your work right now. How can we follow you in your work? What is perhaps emergent. I have an inkling of some very exciting new offerings that are coming through you. So just give us a little glimpse of what life in Mana, Chrissie's quadrant of the Band of Light. If we could go there and join you, what would that look like? And tell us about it.
Well, it's interesting you ask, because my answer feels like it's tailored to this audience. It'd be probably different if I was speaking elsewhere. But because of this conversation, because of the caliber of, your community, what actually does light me up terrifically with my work is the training of powerful space holders to learn more about creating space. Sorry, I've done away with that term holding space. I can't bear it anymore, because bandied around. Rather, we're training in creating space, and I'm so passionate about that part. That's what really excites me, and I'll be probably doing more of that next year. But yes, this pathway, of clearing out the subtle, because that's what this is. People think, oh, I've done plenty of work. It's like this pathway of work that my teacher put together actually meets you wherever you're at, even if you're a master. It will continue to clear the subtle. And yeah, the whole pathway is profound and got me to where I am spiritually and creatively. But I am so excited about the training of what I call the empathic communication. So it's a modality of the talk therapy, which is all metaphysical, really. But it's sort of the basis of the work we do at Mana with people, whether it's in the seminars or the groups. There is technology that I've been gifted with and holden and I'm guardian of, but that I love sharing and training with people. So if anyone listening is, really keen around setting humans free, whether one at a time or in groups, this training is so beautiful. But it is a journey. It's not I'm going to sign up and jump out again. It's a training, like we've been talking about, a lineage. So we go slow, I'm not rushing anyone through any of it. It has to be embodied. But yeah, I love it. I'm very excited about that. But yes, all of that's on our website. And we are, like I mentioned to you before, right now in the beginning stages of launching our online humanities school, which is, anyone can join up and become a part of. You don't have to have done work with Mana. We're just fleshing that out, but it's a new phase of our development, this online and in-person school that I am creating that, in the future will, have more involvement with teachers like yourself and the Andean masters like in Mama Ruth. Like my plan is to have all of you guys and your things in the school there. The finest quality teachings I can present to the people, so yeah, so that's what I'm excited about, building out this school and community, but also that, within that, the training, really taking the keen beans further with their abilities. That's what I'm excited about.
Hallelujah. I love the reformatting of space holders to space creators, creating space. I love that. And I deeply appreciate. So just yesterday, I was talking to another sister who's an incredible teacher as well in her own right about what's needed more than anything right now. And she said the same thing, like leaders who are willing to train up leaders and teachers. And like, we need more lineage for even how to tighten up. Like you said, even if you are beloved as a master and you're, lineage, like there's still refinement to be done. There's still subtleties that need consistent connection. And I am so inspired by that offering. And I will of course share links, on this wherever this video or podcast is shared. There will be links to Chrissie's work, and all that she is deeply celebrated here and in the Band of Light. And she has an eternal home in my heart and in the heart of the band for all that you share and teach and sing. I don't want to leave this podcast without at least acknowledging that Chrissie Firemain has been, not only as a teacher and exploring these realms and lost arts of lineage and indigenous wisdom, but this girl can sing. This girl can sing and get up on stage and just, I have seen you deliver some epic medicine through your voice and your song. And she has music videos that are out there. There's a lot of just exquisite aspects of your soul that I think if you were to focus on any one of them, and I don't say this lightly, I think if you were to literally just say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to do this now, and this is be my thing, it would become a movement. It would become a brilliance in motion, because you have that quality of whatever you apply yourself to, like, really does become a powerful movement. So thank you so much for just choosing and focusing on this aspect of the path at this time, and where we're meeting in space right now, to be able to look at these concepts and areas of humanity's journey. And it's not a ascent or a descent. I see it as a spherical becoming, and like a beingness, a remembering of our beingness, right? Stepping down from the doingness and into this more conscious awareness of what it really means to be a human being, what it means to live life in the band of light. Band of light is so many things, but I love your answer. I love your answer, and it's really the space that we hold and where we are. And it reminds me of our great Andean master friends who are constantly saying this word Humphrey, Chrissie, Humphrey, Elijah, and bringing it down and in. It's like a returning to the home base of our embodiment. And I appreciate that so much about the way that you show up. Kind of is just a big old Humphrey. You know?
You just want me old Humphrey.
One big old Humphrey, Chrissie. Never thought.
I'm taking it. Taking it. Yeah. So beautiful to be here with you and to birth your new endeavor and another delicious offering to our world, Elijah, of your frequency. And yeah, a real honor to be here with you and to birth this with you. And yeah, just I hope more and more people listen to every conversation that Elijah's choosing to have here, because we all know it will be of the highest quality, and we're all going to learn and expand from listening to him and his guests. So big fat blessings on this beautiful podcast journey, and huge blessings to your beautiful Queen Cassidy and your beautiful Princess Osha, women in my inner circle who I cannot wait to deepen with. And congratulations on this new chapter of the rest of your life of fatherhood. I cannot imagine a man that will be and is a better father than you. And I love you so much.
Oh, thank you, dear Chrissie. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for saying that. I would love to complete this journey by just sharing, as we often do in the Band of Light, just a sparkle of an invitation of what the next cycle could look like later on down the line, to invite you to come and be a guest teacher inside of the Band of Light community platform, which we're going to be launching very, very soon. And so by the time this podcast comes out, the announcements will likely already be out and about that platform. And so I'm officially inviting you here and now to come join me for conversation in the dojo, because we're going to be doing these dojo sessions. And there's going to be an area where we're going to be focusing on family parenthood codes, mother, father, masculine, feminine, and just kind of getting into the nitty gritty of what's real and what's needed, and what do we need to remember to come back to beingness around the sacred union and family. And I'd love to get into that a bit more as you acknowledge and honor my recent arrival into the Parenthood Club. And as a father, I'm so fresh on the path, but it's kind of like you said, it's like, oh yeah, I've always been here. Like, I've always been a a papa to many little ones out there. And so there is a sense of this, it just is finally something has clicked into place that's always been there. And it's like everything is now right in the world.
That's right. Yeah.
So I thank you for that acknowledgement, and much more to share. We could of course talk for many more hours, but I want to honor your time and complete this round one and this very first episode. I would say my favorite conversation of all time.
Boy.
So much. Please, everyone, go and enjoy Chrissie's offerings. They're vast and profound, and I'll share links to everything she shared. And bless your heart and your journey and your family and your path.
Thank you, and blessings to you and your family and your journey and your path also.